going?
School for me is going well right now. I am taking a writing course, in exercise sports science that I'm kind of struggling on right now. But everything's falling together. It's my last semester here at Temple, so
Yeah.
Definitely one of my questions I want to ask you is pertaining to grad school. Because Mike, after talking to Mike Brown, me and him were pretty close. He told me that you and Coach Rolfe was one of the main reasons he but he decided to stay here for his master's and pursue sports business and hospitality. And that's something I'm also interested in too, either that or sports psychology. But I'm not. It's like 50-50 right now for me. I'm not 100% sure which one I want to do.
Do you want me to save that, or do you want me to answer and talk about it right now with you?
No, that's a question that I have. So we can wait till the Q&A. That's definitely one of my questions that I have for you.
No luck.
I'm still here.
I see. Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see if anybody gets on. But like I said, regardless if somebody gets on, I'm still interested in what you have to say, Coach Whitney.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, how are you? Hey, Coach Vice President Akina, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, Coach Whitney, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, Coach Whitney. My name is Akina. I'm the Vice President of ESSKA. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Akina. Nice to meet you as well.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We're just waiting on a few of our e-board members.
So we'll just give it, we'll show it. Hey, Han, Hayan, am I saying it right?
Yeah.
How are you, man?
Well, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for showing up, man. We'll just start off in a couple minutes here. We'll give it till about 7:10. I have it recording right now. If you want to introduce yourself to Coach Whitney, you have the pleasure to do that. Hey, Ian, can I ask you a question? Am I saying your name right?
Oh yeah, it's Juan, by the way.
It's Juan.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't hear what you said. So
I apologize. Juan, like I said, if you want to introduce yourself to Coach Whitney, you can. And also, I want to ask, where'd you get the link from, or where did you hear about the meeting at?
well, I follow you guys on Instagram, so I just like typed the link in myself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you an exercise sports science major?
Yeah.
Great. Do you know what you want to pursue in exercise sports science?
I'm thinking about like being a strength coach.
Absolutely. And I think this is the perfect discussion for you to be on. Coach Whitney is a very informed guy. He's been in the business for 20 plus years.
Yeah, I feel that.
All right, guys. So we'll get started here. I already have the recording going. I'm gonna give a brief introduction to who Coach Whitney is, and then I'm gonna give him the floor to speak, okay? At this time, I would like to introduce former Temple University associate, head strength and conditioning coach, instructor in the Department of Public Health, Samuel Whitney. Coach Whitney, also known as Coach SDot, is an alumnus of Temple. While attending Temple University, Coach Whitney majored in kinesiology with a concentration in exercise and sports science, later acquiring his master's of science in sports tourism and hospitality management with a concentration in sports business. With nearly 2 decades of experience in the fitness industry, he has coached high school athletes, collegiate athletes, professional athletes, and trained the general population. Coach Whitney currently works at as the athletic operation coordinator and strength and conditioning coach at the Agnes Aaron Preparatory School for Girls, as well as the owner of We Train Clan, an online training platform. At We Train Clan, their mission is to educate the world on both the physical and mental aspects of wellness, to challenge the community and strengthening their identity through performance and empowering their members to live a life marked with high achievements. Coach Whitney has lectured at conferences and universities on topics of program design, elite performance, fat loss, conditioning, and resistance training. Coach Whitney holds a plethora of additional certifications: Precision Nutrition, Titleist Performance Institute, U.S. Weightlifting, and Reflexive Performance Reset. Coach Whitney competes in sports and competes in the sport of powerlifting and occasionally challenges himself by training for a distance race or physique composition to keep his athletic edge. However, Coach Whitney's proudest accomplishments has been his simple yet effective programming to educate, challenge, and empower thousands of individuals on their journey to achieve elite performance for their lives. Hey guys, sorry about the background noise. I'm gonna mute myself now, and I'm gonna let Coach Whitney take the floor.
Thanks, Sam, and thank you guys for having me and for everybody that's here right now. Wonderful introduction. Thank you very much. I'll touch on a few of those things, I think, as we go. But what Sam has asked me to do is kind of give the story of my journey and kind of tie in some of the lessons I've learned along the way, particularly ones that apply to you all as exercise science students, possibly those who are looking for internships or trying to break through and make a career in the business, whether it's collegiate strength conditioning or really any of the professions that apply in exercise science. I would say probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in my journey is that we're all a reflection of our own experiences. Our path teaches us certain things, and we have a bias towards certain things because of the journey we've been on. And the one thing that I've learned is to kind of look back and evaluate situations I've been in or my life experiences, the journey that I've been on, which I'm about to tell you guys about, to better understand why I do the things I do, why I chose this profession in the first place, what really informs my training and my coaching. So I think that's one thing that I want you guys to keep in mind and maybe think about as I start to talk about how I got to where I am right now. Maybe you can start to see, although you're all much younger than me, kind of what got you to Temple and what made you choose exercise science, and maybe look ahead at what are some things that you're attracted to and where you want to go. So with that said, I'd say my first real taste of strength and conditioning or resistance training was probably in the 7th or 8th grade. Before that, when I was real young, my parents had bought me a resistance band set. I don't even remember who manufactured it, but it was like a Bowflex machine almost. And I used to mess around on that thing, but I really think I started taking training seriously when I was in 7th or 8th grade, playing football, wrestling in the winter, playing other sports in the spring, whether that's track or baseball. But I distinctly remember falling in love with the hard work and the accountability of conditioning in the winter time for wrestling. One great experience I always look back on that I can say made a huge impact on me was being at my middle school over winter break when no one else was there, because we had to practice for wrestling and we had wrestling tournaments to go to. And at the time I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we would go out, we would shovel the track, and we'd run around the track, and then we'd be in the wrestling room with the condensation coming down the walls. We'd be in the hallway doing push-ups and sit-ups, and my wrestling coach was also my football coach. So I spent a good chunk of my time throughout the year with him. And then he would have us, in the weight room and lifting. That trend continued when I was in 9th grade. When I was a freshman, it's probably the first time I started lifting year round. Me and a lot of my friends, we did some bodybuilder type programs in the off season. My mom bought me my first strength conditioning book, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger's Bible or Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. Sorry. So trying to do workouts that Arnold did out of there, like a lot of young kids do, find stuff on the internet or magazines or books. So that was probably 9th grade was probably the first time I was training year round. I wasn't training for anything in particular. I was just moving around with weights, trying different things, no real set program, which is fine at that level. I think that's how everyone gets started, and I think that's perfectly acceptable. But I changed schools when I was going into the 10th grade, and I moved to a very small high school back here in Pennsylvania. And very quickly realized that my sports career was going to be much different at a much smaller school with teams that were not quite as good as the ones I was on previously. So eventually my interest in other sports, kind of faded away, and I stuck with football, but I would train year round for football. There was probably 4 or 5 guys consistently that would train in season, train in the wintertime, springtime, summertime. We were showing up before our summer 2-a-days would start, and we were there every night lifting together. It was just a solid group of 4 or 5 of us who were dedicated. And it was our head coach who was there helping us out, writing programs for us. He wasn't a strength coach, but he was a quarterback at Bucknell. Knew enough to help us out, to introduce some of those movements to us. So that was the time. I would say high school was the time where I really, really took it to the next level and dug deep into my interest in in strength and conditioning. However, at the time, I did not know strength and conditioning was a thing. Like I said, I went to a very small school in high school. We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach. We didn't even have an athletic trainer at our games. So I didn't even really know about athletic training either until I was introduced to the athletic trainer for it was the Binghamton Mets at the time. I think it may be a different farm team now and may not be associated with the Mets. I'm not sure. But in Binghamton, New York, a family friend introduced me to their athletic trainer. So as far as I knew, athletic trainer was the guy that worked them out. So I wanted to go to Temple to be an athletic trainer. Well, once I got to Temple, after my first semester, I figured out that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. Particularly, we watched a video, an intro to kinesiology, Kines 101, or I don't know what they call it these days, but watched a video of sports injuries, and I went directly to my advisor at the time, who was Dr. O'Du, who's no longer at Temple, and I told him, I was like, I don't know, this isn't for me. Like, I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer. And he was a great advisor. He knew a lot about me. So he knew that I liked lifting, and he said to me, aren't you into lifting and everything? Like, have you thought about strength and conditioning? And I was just, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is. But he kind of explained it to me. And then at the college level, it was a thing. And at the professional level, it was a thing. And it was a relatively new profession, and not much has changed at Temple, but they didn't exactly recommend that course of action. It was more like cardiac rehab and things like that. But there was a solid group of us then at that point in my class, and I will drop some of those names for you guys because they're all very successful strength conditioning coaches. Obviously other professions too, but that's just the world I'm in. So, I got a bunch of guys I graduated with that are very successful strength conditioning coaches that are still out there doing it too. And they would be great resources for you all. But that's when I made the change. Slight change in courses, really started focusing on strength conditioning. However, another important thing that's important for me to point out, and going back to the question that Sam asked me about, kind of thinking back on my experiences and things that helped me out. I didn't know well enough to, do an internship. It was part of the course curriculum that you needed to do your senior year. So as far as I knew, you did your one internship and you solidified your course credits. You got to graduate, right? All's well, you graduate, you get a job, before you know it, you're working your way up, you're a head strength and conditioning coach somewhere. One of the amazing things that I see now are people, students with 4 or 5 different internships throughout their 4 years at Temple. And I think that is amazing. I'm not a huge fan of people working for free. I think ultimately the system is flawed, specifically in strength conditioning, where kind of the steps you have to go through in order to earn those positions. But quite frankly, the supply is much larger than the demand. There's only a certain number of strength conditioning jobs out there. So it is a challenge, and there's a lot of people that are willing to work for free. So you kind of have to put yourself in that position. But ultimately, I think the people that have a broad spectrum, a greater number of internships, whether it's at the private sector, college sector, with a professional team, I think those people fare much better in the long run. One, for gaining experience for their resume. Secondly, gaining experience for themselves, where they're better able to decide, you know, what the right career path is for them. And that's something, as someone who oversaw interns and graduate students for many years, you know, a lot of people think they want to be in collegiate strength and conditioning. It might appear to be pretty glamorous on the outside, but I think a lot of people don't actually want to handle all the responsibilities that come with that profession. And the same, I'm sure, can be said for athletic training, physical therapy, personal training, even anything that goes along with kinesiology. I think exposing yourself to as many of those areas as soon as possible will help you better find your path sooner. So side note there, but I didn't do an internship until I was in my last semester of my senior year. I didn't graduate until I got to walk in May 2008, but I didn't graduate until August after I finished my internship. And that was with Villanova University. The guys at Villanova at the time were nice enough to bring me on then as an assistant. I was making $1,000 a month. It was a 10-month position. Again, they were nice enough to keep me around during the summer to work with football. So it became a 12-month position. So I was making $12,000 a year, obviously working other jobs, trying to make ends meet. But that's what I wanted to do. I had my first paid job at Villanova. I was there for, I think, a little under 2.5 years. And in that time, I mean, it was a great experience. Small staff, a lot of teams at Villanova. So I got to train my own teams. I had 5 or 6 teams while I was there. I got to help with basketball. I got to help with football. Football won the FCS national championship while I was there. And the basketball team went to the Final Four, which at the time was a big deal because it was before the 2 national championships, obviously here in the recent past. So that was a great experience for me. You know, not going to grad school, I guess I made that decision to not be a GA somewhere, which we can talk about whether that's the right move or not. You know, you may have your own personal opinions. I may have a different opinion on my career moves, whether it was good or bad. Ultimately, I decided to take a full-time job at NYU. It was actually the Polytechnic Institute of NYU, which at the time was a separate campus. They've now made it into one large campus with one athletics program at NYU. But we had a separate athletics program at NYU Poly, and I was the head guy there. I had 17 teams, if I'm recalling correctly, Division III, all by myself. So huge learning curve. Not a whole lot of expectations placed on me being the first strength coach there. So that was a great opportunity. You know, I could kind of make mistakes, figure things out on my own. I reported directly to the athletic director, which I thought was awesome, you know, because that line of communication is huge. And that's something maybe you don't get at a certain level of Division I. So, or in the pro levels for that matter. So I thought it was awesome to be able to do that. Ultimately, living in New York City is a grind. I had applied for the job at Temple, and in 2012, I had the opportunity to make it back to my alma mater and started as an assistant at Temple. At the time, we had a few more sports than we do now. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but we used to have baseball and softball. We used to have men's gymnastics, and we used to have men's track and field. All those teams were cut. But at the time, we had the head guy who worked with basketball only. It was me as the only assistant, and then 2 GAs under me. Me and the two GAs were in the basement weight room, the same one that's there now, doing all those other sports. So small staff, a lot of work. But in the subsequent years, more staff was added to the point where now there is a basketball only person. Tim Teefee, who's our director of sports performance. When I say our, I mean, I'm no longer at Temple, but it's still my alma mater. 3 full-time assistants, and there's now 3 GAs there. So the staff has grown quite a bit. The number of teams have gone down. That allowed us to provide, I think, a better product and to do some different things that maybe we didn't have the time or resources to do back then. In my time at Temple, I had the opportunity to redesign the weight room and purchase all the equipment that you guys might see down there now. So if you ever take a walk down in the basement of McGonigal, the varsity weight room, not to pat myself on the back, but I designed that entire space. And I only mention that because I can attribute that to being another great experience that I had. There was a lot of lessons learned. I made mistakes in that process, but to think through that, now let's think through it from a programming standpoint. What is your philosophy? What do you believe in? How do you want to train your athletes? What's your smallest team? What's your largest team? How many people are you going to have in there at one time? What's the schedule look like? And then really, as a strength and conditioning coach, being able to think through your entire process and apply that to how you design the room and what equipment to purchase and how much equipment to purchase. That was a great exercise for me. So it was something that I enjoyed at the time, and it's something I'm very proud of. And there's been small changes along the way, but it's still pretty much the way I originally designed it, which I think, I took my time on it and put a lot of work into that. But I was at Temple for 8 years and 11 months. So almost 9 years in my time at Temple. As I said, a lot of things changed throughout that time. Before recently here in July, taking a position, as Sam said, as the athletics operation coordinator at the Agnes Irwin School. And I also, of course, act as the strength and conditioning coach. So big career shift for me, I think. Going into a high school, taking on a lot of different roles and responsibilities that maybe I'm not used to, taking on some other roles and responsibilities that I did at Temple as the associate head strength conditioning coach, but now I'm doing them in a different light. I'm doing them for the entire athletics program. So logistically, a lot of things are the same scheduling wise, but now I'm looking at a much broader scope with our entire athletics program at Agnes Irwin and all of our sports there. And then I also get a good portion of my day to still be a strength and conditioning coach and still be around the teams and the athletes and have those relationships that, I enjoyed so much and the things that really make coaching so great. So that's pretty much my story. That puts us where we are right now. I'm open to questions at this point. If you guys have specific questions you want to ask about anything I said or anything about my journey. Otherwise, if there's no questions, I'll be glad to maybe start throwing out some tidbits and some pointers, some things, maybe I notice when you're applying for jobs, applying for internships. Let's talk about graduate assistant programs and let's talk about those full-time jobs. We don't have to just talk about strength and conditioning. I mean, I'm not an expert in any other field, but I would be more than happy to put you in contact with individuals. I know individuals in every area of the profession, and try and answer questions as best I can for you or point you in the right direction.
All righty. Thank you, Coach Whitney. I would definitely highly appreciate if you were to drop the names of the some of the fellas that you graduated with in the chat, so I could definitely reach out to them or follow them on social media or any platforms that they have right now currently. This is the Q&A portion of the discussion. So if you guys do have questions, feel free to ask. I know I have a couple questions, but I'm gonna give you guys the privilege to ask before I go ahead and start asking away.
I have a question.
Sure.
All right, so obviously I'm a female and I love like working out. I'm really sporty and like I've been an athlete all my life. I played Division
Mhm.
One lacrosse, and when I came to Temple, when I transferred from Delaware, I actually wanted to pursue exercise sports science. But then I started looking at the demographics of the field and the profession, and I don't see a lot of representation of women. So what would you say to like any females that are interested in, being strength and conditioning coaches or getting in the field of exercise sports science? Like what advice would you give them if they feel like discouraged, or,
Yeah.
they just feel like they're not being represented within the field? Like what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean that's great. I don't disagree with you at all. It may sound a little simplistic to say don't be discouraged, but those opportunities are out there, whether you see it or not. Those opportunities are out there every day. I mean, it's not like people aren't actively searching for a better representation all around of the demographic of athletes. Athletes come in all shapes and sizes, right? Colors, genders, all that. I don't think you're wrong by saying, I mean, let's be honest, predominantly white males, I think, are strength conditioning coaches.
Yeah.
It hasn't been my experience. I mean, obviously, coming from a place where I do identify as white male, but it hasn't been my experience that, it's not like a good old boys club. I think those opportunities are out there. I think by being discouraged, it's limiting the number of individuals who seek those positions out,
Mhm.
like yourself. Um, if you're discouraged and you don't seek it out, then of course that opportunity is not out there for you or for someone like you. Um, but there's a lot of people out there willing to hire anyone, hire the best candidate, and again, look for that representation. I think discussions like this are hugely important because I myself have worked with many female students. I trained primarily female athletes. I'm at an all-girls school right now.
Mhm.
Um, I think they know what's possible. I have many colleagues that have come up underneath me as interns and GAs, and I'll be glad to put you in contact with them as well. But they're very successful strength and conditioning coaches. So they are out there. They are highly sought after. I think, unfortunately, it starts at a very young age, and it's something we battle with dealing with our athletes, coaching our athletes every day, is that there's still that perception that you're going to get big and bulky, you're going to look like a man. Females hear all those things when they step foot in the gym.
Mhm.
And unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of guys that make women very uncomfortable in the gym. Um,
Yep.
I, Fortunately, I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, we're all on Instagram here, so there's a lot of women that are going to the gym and they're using barbells and they're doing a lot of those bigger lifts that maybe in the past we would attribute to bodybuilders or
Right.
power lifters. So I think it's coming, and maybe slowly, but I think anyone who focuses their energy in that direction, strength conditioning in particular, will find that it's very open, and they would be successful.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would definitely like contacts because
Yeah.
I'm graduating in the fall, like
Mhm.
December, and I have a whole year before I start my master's program. So I'm just looking to get more experience in the field and, to see what it's about and try to break those barriers down. So,
Sure. Yeah. I think it's probably easiest if I just email Sam a list
yeah.
of contacts, because I mean I have hundreds that I will send you guys and share, and I'm sure they'll all be happy to help with you. I'll try and throw as many Temple alumni in there as possible. Um, Akina, I think one thing you can do right off the bat is
Hmm.
email Coach Goldberg specifically downstairs, and get in contact with her and just do a visit. You don't have to intern with the folks down at Temple, but you can go hang out for the day. They'll be more than happy to have you. And you can talk to Coach Goldberg about her experiences in strength conditioning. She's a relatively young strength conditioning coach. She's been at Temple now 2 or 3 years. I don't know. We all know COVID kind of messed everything up time wise, but she's been there for a minute. and there was several other females that were on my staff before her, but she's right there for you. She's a great resource. So I would reach out to her.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know we had a female strength and conditioning coach.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Juan, do you have a question?
I mean, I was just gonna let him talk, but nah, I don't got one.
Okay. Hey Issa, do you have a question? And then Coach Whitney, my apologies, but
Yeah. Do you have any advice for like freshmen? Because I'm a freshman, so I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I think the thing that I touched on when I was kind of telling my story is that try and gain some experience right now, no matter how small. Don't just stay in your bubble. Don't stay where you're comfortable. Go out, do site visits, go to different gyms, talk to different people, gain insights from different people. And whatever it is you think you want to do right now, don't be so dead set on that. Be open to other options. Give yourself other opportunities to figure things out. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in this profession, and you might not know about those until you start talking to people, and you might find a different passion. But definitely go out there, get face to face with people. COVID restrictions are lifting. We can start to visit places, go to different universities. Philadelphia is, if my research is correct, the most densely populated collegiate strength conditioning setting. A few years ago, actually 8 years ago, I started an organization called the PASCA. It's the Philadelphia Area Strength Conditioning Association. Prior to COVID, we would meet once a month and have about 30 to 50 strength conditioning coaches in one spot. If those ever strike up again, I'll be more than happy to get the invite out to you guys and have you come. But I say that to say that there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of gyms in Philadelphia, and there's a lot of sports performance places in Philadelphia. There's powerlifting gyms, there's strongman gyms, there's CrossFit gyms. There's gyms with PT clinics inside of it. There's sports performance private facilities, anywhere from here to King of Prussia to down to Delaware. So get out there, start talking to people, start figuring out what it is you want to do, and gain some experience.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey Issa, I apologize. I forgot to introduce you. So Issa is our event coordinator. If you want to introduce yourself, Issa, you can.
I'm actually at the track right now. I'm sorry.
It's nice to meet you, Issa.
Pleasure to meet you, Sam. Thank you for your talk, and thank you for giving your time to share with us. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate having this opportunity. I mean, I was telling Sam, obviously, I'm happy to give back to my community. You guys are my people, so it's awesome.
Yes, but thank you so much, Coach Whitney. Like, is it Whitney or Whitney?
Yeah, Coach Whitney. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, but I just looked up Coach Goldberg. I'm actually in the process of sending her an email right now. I would like to meet her tomorrow or maybe sometime next week.
That's awesome.
Hey Akina, if you would like, I'm in there tomorrow interning from 10
what
to 12.
time? I'll come visit.
I'll introduce you. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I can introduce you if you would like.
Okay. I'll come back. I'll stop by.
Yeah. But I do have a couple questions if anybody else has any questions, and then we can open up the floor just for him giving us advice and tips. All right, cool. All right. So just a little warm-up question. As a strength coach, what would you say you enjoy more? The coaching aspect of strength and conditioning, or the science behind it, in the terms of science, like nutrition and programming, and along the lines of like organizing the facility?
Yeah, that's a super easy question for me. I love being a coach. I love talking with people. developing those relationships. I think it's a little cliche at this point in the profession to say it's all about relationships, but I've been that guy from day one. I'd rather understand my athletes and figure out what makes them tick. And I don't think I'm any sort of guru at writing programs. I'm not smarter than the next guy. I just have a good ability to draw the most effort and the greatest attitude out of people that I work with and make them enjoy the process of working hard. And when it comes to strength conditioning, I don't really enjoy talking about programming or the science or the specifics that much. I enjoy talking about management of people and leadership habits and all those types of things that kind of go with being a team. That's what interests me the most. So I may not be the world's
May have lost connection, but I believe he'll hop back on. I do got a couple questions for him. We're gonna give it a moment, see if he hops back on. Hey guys, I really appreciate you guys hopping on, man. I really do. Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Issa. Thank you, Akina. I really appreciate you guys hopping on.
No problem. Juan, I have a question for you. Are you did you find us on Owl Connect or Temple Fest?
No, so like I follow the Instagram page and then like I just saw on there like the Zoom link and I literally just typed it into my computer because like I tried to find a link but like I don't know, I just couldn't find it. So
You couldn't find it? Okay.
yeah. But
do you have any friends that are like, I know you just started going to Temple. Do you have any friends that are also in ESS or Kines?
No, not
do they know about the club?
no, I don't know anyone, like none of my friends that like does like majoring in exercise science.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to know. Yeah. Because we're trying to reach out to more underclassmen. Because you guys are the futures of the club. Like Sam, Issa, and I, like we're all seniors. So
yeah.
Hey guys, I don't know what happened. I got kicked off there.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Sorry about that. So what I was saying is, I don't claim to be the greatest strength and conditioning coach in the world, specifically on the programming side of things. But I think my programs get the job done, and more specifically, the way I coach and my philosophy on things has made me a very successful coach.
Wait, I have another question if you don't mind.
Sure.
So how would you deal with like a athlete that's like lacking motivation?
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you approach that?
Well, I think motivation, that's a tough one. Motivation is temporary, right? None of us always feel like doing what we should do all the time. A motivation comes and goes with our feelings, whether we're having a bad day or something else happened. I think opening up athletes and figuring out what drives them, and it may not even be their sport, but figuring out who they are and what makes them tick is the most important thing. And that's how you get the most out of them day in and day out. Figure out what they're driven by, figure out mirroring their language, right? Mirroring their, I kind of not body language, but mirroring their mannerisms, speaking their language, being eye to eye with them each and every day. I make myself the equal with my athletes. I don't come from a position of power. So I'm not here to force you to do anything. I'm simply giving you the roadmap to success and showing you how to follow it. So it's pretty tough to motivate people when they don't want to do something. I think one thing that's always funny to me is people kind of look down on Division I because, well, they're all scholarship athletes and they all want to be there and they just all work hard and they're just most talented. That couldn't be further from the truth. I think some Division I athletes could be the least athletic people they might have a lot of talent, or they might have the specific skills to be really good at their sport. They certainly didn't come to school to do strength and conditioning. They came to play a sport and get their education. So, I think working with those individuals, every day you're challenged with somebody who doesn't want to be there. I mean, you work with 400 people a day. There's going to be, let's say 20% that don't want to be there at any given time. But it's being comfortable working with the ebbs and the flows. It's being comfortable with drawing out as much as you can out of those people in that day, right? You're 100% on one day is not 100% the next day, but I need whatever you can give me today. I need that out of you. And I think that's the just chipping away at it day after day. I think that's the best way. That should replace motivation, I should say. I think that's the way to get results, is to just get what you can get each day. And not everyone's going to have a spectacular day every single day you're in there. But the fact that they show up whether they want to or they have to, and they do something that day, is more important than what they do on that day, I think. Shoot, what was I going to say? One of the things I enjoy about being a strength conditioning coach, and I was actually talking to my volleyball team earlier today, is that all coaches are very type A personality. There's a little bit of ego there. Strength conditioning coaches in particular are very organized. They like things to be done a certain way at a certain time. Programs are written in advance. It's like, we are doing X, Y, and Z, this many sets, this many reps. But the awesome thing about being a strength conditioning coach and having a relationship with your athletes is going like, oh, okay, coach kept you guys 15 extra minutes. Coach conditioned you at the end of practice. You guys had a game that went to double overtime yesterday. Let's take these things. Let's rearrange it. All right, let's make you feel good. I get what I want. They get what they want. I pulled back the volume or the intensity. We changed some things out. We saved 5 minutes to foam roll. All those things. That's what keeps them coming back, because they know you got their back, and you're willing to make sacrifices on your end to show them that you are doing it for them, and there's no selfish reasons behind that.
Like that. Piggyback off the question I had earlier. I currently intern at IRL, and I really enjoy coaching the golf team and the crew team. I love their energy and their different personalities that they bring, in the weight room. What was your favorite team while working at Temple that you like to coach? And if you don't have a favorite team, what's your favorite sport, just in general, not at Temple, but just in general, that you prefer to coach?
I don't have a favorite team. I played a big part in developing that department and that philosophy and that culture down there in the weight room. And my favorite part was getting everybody from top to bottom involved in that. And I really prided myself on treating every team exactly the same. I was determined to be possibly the only department or the only person that treated every athlete the same, no matter if they were full scholarship or whatever sport they played, and how people tier their sports. And obviously we have revenue generating sports and non-revenue generating sports, and we've got big teams and small teams. We've got the whole gamut. It was my belief to just treat everybody the same, and the standard is the standard across the board. I hold everybody accountable to those same exact standards. I don't treat anybody differently, and I think that was a success. That's what worked for me. Not giving any certain team extra attention or doing that, and that allowed me to have a lot of buy-in from everyone. And that allowed me to enjoy working with every single team, no matter what team that was. So I don't have a favorite team at Temple, and I don't really have a favorite team to coach either. My favorite sport is still football. I haven't worked with football since 2010. I've gone over to a few different work with the strength coaches. Every time there was a new staff over with football, I stopped in. I know those guys, hung out for a workout. I've helped out here and there. But football is my favorite sport. I haven't coached football since 2010. So
Wait, I have another question if you don't mind.
Shoot away, man.
You said that you coached at Villanova, and then you said you coach now at like all girls high school, you said?
correct. I started my career at Villanova. I interned at Villanova for 6 months or so before they brought me on as a assistant coach, which it's a glorified title. It was like a paid intern. So yeah, I started at Villanova, and I ended up now here at the Agnes Irwin School, which is actually right down the street from Villanova, and it is an all girls school.
So like is there any like differences you see in like coaching high school versus collegiate level, or like not much of a difference? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the answer is kind of why I decided to leave the collegiate setting and move to the high school. I think part of it is personal reasons, just being kind of burnt out with the same routine of the collegiate setting, year after year, long hours, early mornings, late nights, really no time for yourself. Those are all a reality. I'll just tell everybody right now. So if you're thinking about getting into strength conditioning and you're going to intern and you intern for 20 hours a week, just realize that as a full-time strength conditioning coach, you're going to be working probably no less than 60 hours a week at most places. Teams train early in the morning, teams train late at night to work around class schedules. There's some weekends involved. There's a lot of weekends involved, and that's just the reality of it. But those things eventually, I grew tired of a little bit. I never grew tired of the athletes or training the athletes. But that was one of the things that made me leave. The other reason is that more and more you see high school strength and conditioning becoming a thing. There's more high schools out there who are hiring full-time strength conditioning coaches. There's also a lot of athletes coming into college with a lot of experience, either at their high school or with a private coach. When I first got into the profession, like the collegiate was the first stop, and it was the last stop for a lot of people. Now I think the first stop is middle school, high school. Me thinking that I'm a pretty good strength conditioning coach, and seeing the type of athletes that were coming into Division I, I see there's a huge area to be able to impact younger athletes at that level. So the transition has kind of happened from the collegiate setting being the first stop to now there's a lot of younger people getting into strength and conditioning or training. So I kind of changed my lens, my focus to kind of hit them earlier on when I can still be the first exposure that they have to strength and conditioning. And I think there's a lot of people out there who may badmouth trainers or coaches who work with younger athletes, but I love strength more than anyone. That's my thing. But I think there's so much of a foundation that can be laid with younger athletes in proper movement and technique that goes a long way. It's hard for me to say, well, somebody 13 years old shouldn't be working with a strength conditioning coach. That person's just stealing their parents' money. I don't think that's true at all. And I don't just say that because I'm at that level now. I've always felt that way. Sam, I know you had another question.
Yeah, I do have another question, Coach Whitney. So these ones are a little bit more in-depth and personal to me. What advice would you give someone who's interested in grad school but is unsure of the path they want to pursue, but they know they want to establish a name for themselves in the private sector of strength and conditioning? Would you tell them to double down and fine-tune their knowledge and skills, or would you say for them to pursue the knowledge and business realm and create networks and relationships?
Man, that is an awesome question, my man. As I said earlier, I feel kind of the same way about graduate assistant positions as I do about internships. It's mixed feelings. I mean, I don't think it's right per se to ask so many people to work so cheaply or to put so much responsibility on people who are working for free or little to no money. But again, it's kind of what I had to do to get into strength and conditioning. It's what a lot of people had to do to get into strength and conditioning. That's the way it is right now. It sucks. I don't think I can change that by myself. That's kind of how the system is built. But I'm seeing a lot less graduate assistant positions out there, and a lot of them are turning into just entry-level positions, which I think if we can manage to stop having entry-level positions require 3 to 5 years of experience, you know, and a master's degree, then if we can make an entry-level position a truly entry-level position and pay somebody what they deserve, then it's a great opportunity. So I guess to answer your question, Sam, I think it depends on the person. But I would say don't pursue a graduate assistant position unless you're 100% sure that you want to be a strength and conditioning coach. If there's another option out there for you, you have to know that going ahead of time. If you choose to do a graduate assistant position, knowing that you're not going to be a collegiate strength and conditioning coach, then understand the process and understand what it is you're going to be asked to do and what's going to be required of you before you commit to something that you're not willing to do for the next 2 years just to get a degree. I think that's important. There's a ton of research positions out there that you can get that pay. I mean, you could be a TA, right? That pays. So there's a couple different options outside of interning or being a GA that you can pursue. But I really do think it depends highly on the individual. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does answer my question. I do have one more question. One more. I think you answered this a little bit earlier on in your discussion, but to be the best at what you do, you must cultivate and drive a passion in whatever it is you pursue. What was it about strength and conditioning coming up through the ropes that really shifted your gears and increased your passion in this career field?
I see a lot of myself in the people that I work with, and it keeps me hungry every single day. You know, I kind of explained my story, and you know, I maybe didn't go into too much detail, but those times where it was just the 4 or 5 of us guys lifting for football, I fell in love with the self accountability. I'll be straight up. Our football team was absolutely trash, terrible. I was disappointed every single year. I never developed into the player I thought I was going to be. You know, and again, self-reflection. I probably blame a lot of things on that I could blame myself just as much, but hindsight, I never became the player I wanted to be, but I knew that lifting was one thing that I could focus on and that I could be in control of, and to build my body, to build my athleticism. I never really knew why I was doing it then, but looking back on it, it was the one thing that I could control, and I felt like I could chip away at, I could be successful at. So every day when I work with athletes, I see a lot of myself in them. And I'm always trying to find small victories for them in the weight room. And we all work with athletes at some point who maybe don't get a lot of playing time, you know, or they didn't develop into the athlete that they were recruited to be, or that they thought they were going to be at the college level. I mean, it's the same old story over and over again. But I always try and find those people, small wins that they can have. And I'm okay with weight room all-stars. Like, if you never see the field, but you have a great college experience because you were an all-star in the weight room and you like the strength conditioning staff, then like I consider that a win. And I don't think that strength conditioning should take all the focus, but it's a very important piece to the entire athletic experience. And being the holistic individual I am, I want everyone to have an athletic experience, a great academic, athletic, college experience. And when maybe something is lacking in a certain area, I think that strength and conditioning can kind of insert itself and take place for that. You know, we deal with that with injured athletes who aren't able to see the field. We can kind of fill that gap. So that's the part that I really enjoy as being a strength and conditioning coach, previously at the college level, now at the high school level. But as I said before, a lot of the college athletes I worked with, that was their first, and that was their highest level that they were ever going to achieve in their sport. So I wanted to give them something that they could take after their 4 years and continue to run with for the rest of their life, just like I have in the weight room. I continue to be competitive and to do these different things. I mean, you mentioned in my introduction that I occasionally run a distance race. I'm running the Broad Street Run on Sunday. I'm not a distance runner. I'm a weightlifter. But I developed that confidence to just be able to train and to do those things. And I think a lot of people would be scared to step foot in the weight room or wouldn't know where to start running. But the hundreds, if not thousands of college athletes that I've worked with at this point, I hope that when they're done with their career, they can go to a gym and be comfortable. And like I said to Akina earlier, female athletes, I hope that when they're done working with us and they're outside of our little bubble, that they can go to the IBC or the Star or to the Life Fitness and feel comfortable doing all the things that we just did for 4 years on their own. That's ultimately what it is for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Does anybody else have any questions? We've trickled over, the 8 p.m. timeline. We call section to be on for an hour. So if anybody else has any questions, this is the perfect time to ask right now. Otherwise, I would like to conclude the recording and, thank Coach Whitney just for taking his time out of his busy schedule.
Thank you so much, Coach
Come on
Whitney.
and talk to us.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for taking your time out of your day to come listen to me. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you very much. All right, guys. You guys have a great night. I'm going to have the recording up soon. So you guys have a great night. Thanks again for showing up, guys.